Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. Monday afternoon, and Lisamarie is very kind to join us by leaving her work for half an hour and talking about her journey. Lisamarie, thank you for joining us in the podcast today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to talking to your audience and sharing some great successes.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Quick introduction who Lisamarie is. Lisamarie is SVP of Trustone Financial Federal Credit Union. She's been with financial services for at least, if I'm not wrong, 30 years, 3 decades, and like 1.5 decades with Trustone. She has been a reckoning force in building, managing the retail network for Trustone, done phenomenal work, and she was kind enough to give us 30 minutes today to chat more on what she does, why credit unions, and share her journey. Again, Lizambai, thank you for taking your time out to catch up with us today.
Yes, thank you. Well, as you said, I'm the SVP, the Director of Minnesota Branches here in Minnesota. And what really keeps me excited about this is the opportunity to lead passionate people that want to move forward. You know, everyone says credit unions are about money. It's not about the money, it's about the people, right? And how do we get the people to be committed to delivering those excellent experiences and benefits within our community? So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, let's start with one quick question, right? What keeps you going?
What keeps me going, I would say, is going to be my team. You know, it's not just the team that reports to me, but it's the team that I rely on to help our members. There's nothing better in life than having a member having an issue or a concern and being able to give them a solution, right? Or having that member that sends me an email or a 5-star Google review talking about how great our staff is or that experience. As we all know, a lot of things that are happening out here in the credit union world are from naughty people, right? And if we're able to stop them and help our members not lose any assets, that's a win for us too. So, all of above.
Sounds good, Lizamari. Let's talk about your journey next, right? So, what has been your journey so far? You were in a bank, then you moved to a credit union. It's interesting. So, what has been your journey?
Yeah, so my journey was is that I was at a big bank, love the big bank, love the people, love the team, had no desire to ever leave, thought I would retire from there. Then I had an opportunity to come to the credit union. So Truth had an executive team that we had crossed paths from our big bank lives. And I decided to come over and see what it's about. So funny story, when I came over, they had originally talked to me about one branch, but then they said, oh, we internally promoted somebody. How about this branch? And I said, oh, I'm not sure. I don't know how to parallel park because it was in the city. And they're like, are you crazy? We have a parking lot. I was like, oh, okay, perfect. Then I can do it. So then I went over to be the manager there. And as I was the manager there and having such success with our team, my chief retail officer came to me and asked if I was interested to be the director at Trustone. And I said, sure, let's give it a shout. So I did it. We've been overseeing the branches. We had a successful merger, and it's just been great. So it's just been a great journey, and I'm just excited to continue through this path.
And you're really passionate about the movement, right? That's the most important thing, Lizamari. So, that brings to my next question that why credit unions? You move from banks to credit unions. I sound like a broken record every time I ask this question who my guest, but I get different type of answers. So what's your 2 cents?
Yeah. For me, I think it comes down to philosophy and products. I think that the big banks, it's very black and white, right? You're reporting to the shareholders. You have to follow these policies and procedures. It's very much this way, this way, this way. I think in the credit unions, it allows us to go into that gray area. I mean, obviously, you want to do what's best for your member. You know, the member experience, making decisions directly, but it allows you to have a little bit more flexibility. You know, you may have a member that fell on hard times. Maybe they didn't realize that it was a consequence of a check systems or a credit or things like that, and it allows us to help that member become more engaged instead of just saying yes or no. I always tell people I like to go in that gray area as long as it's ethical and honest and it aligns with all of our guidelines. But I think that's what the credit union does. It allows us to really look at our members and what's best for our members and look at them as a person, right? How can we help them and continue that generational leadership and membership?
That's a very heartfelt answer, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I get that. Uh, so I mean, we talked about this earlier, but what is your current role at Trustone right now? What are the things you oversee?
Some of the challenges. Are you asking for the challenges that I'm facing?
No, no. What is your
Sorry.
current role? What is your current role in Trustone? What are the few things you oversee?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I apologize. So, my current role today is I oversee 11 branches that are on the west side. I also am part of our digital team. I'm part of our Community Cares Act, our fund committee. And then outside of that, I'm part of the Minnesota Credit Union Network Lead. I'm in women's leadership. I'm an ambassador for that, where we have many different programs. I also do their award committee, where I get to judge awards for other states. And I just really am engrossed into that. I really try to help others underneath become bigger and better and mentor. We had a mentor program in the Credit Union League, and I was able to do that with another credit union up north. So, really trying to help women become better place in leadership within our credit union roles.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, talking into your work, right? So, you're very passionate about running retail, running branches.
Yep.
And that's always been interesting. I mean, for me personally, Lisamarie, I'm a zillennial, right? Between Gen
Yep.
Z and millennial. So it's not that I don't go to a branch, but I don't remember the last time I went to a branch because I'm more digital savvy. So tomorrow is not branch, not digital, but it's a combination of both, right? I
Yep.
mean, there's an interesting study I was reading for Gen Zs. Gen Zs prefer financial institutions that actually do have a branch nearby because they
Mhm.
want a look and feel. It should not be complete all digital. Yeah, that sounds sexy, but I'll tell you basic problem that I am facing right now. My credit card, right? So for one of the institutions, my credit card, I applied for a new credit card. It had to be delivered to my place. And I realized that it didn't get delivered for 2 months because there was an issue in the address. That too because of wrong entry. Whenever I call people up, they don't understand. Finally, I walked into a branch to check what is the problem. And finally, they fixed it. From that perspective, that a branch is still needed. My
Yes.
question to you is long-winded that what is the future of retail? How do you think is retail shaping up?
It's really interesting you ask that question because it gets asked to us a lot of times, right? So we have the brick and mortar, but we also have the partner with the digital. I think that it needs both, to be honest. I think that people want quick, fast, and easy, right? They want AI, they want a chatbot, they want to have no communication, but I also think when they make long-term decisions or big decisions, they want it in person. You said, a comment about your credit card, but when you have an issue with your credit card, you want to talk to someone, right? And if you can't get that question answered in a chat bot, or you can't get that question answered in the contact center, maybe you're walking by a branch at lunchtime or you're driving by and you're like, hey, I'll jump in. I think there's that human connection. I think there's different people that want different ways, but I think what we see at TrueStone is they want both, right? They want easy and convenient. So we have our chatbot that can answer one line questions really quick, fast, right? But then we also have when somebody wants to talk about a loan product, do they want a balloon? Do they want a 5-1? Fix, right? What kind of loan do they want? What's the rate? Do they want gap? Do they want true protect? So I think it's the best of both at this point. I also think the future, the younger generation wants human connection. They want to talk to people as long as the people are talking with them and not at them. They want to be educated. They want to learn. They want to work with people that know what to do and say. They don't want all the chit chat. They just want to get straight to the point. So I think that's the biggest piece is learning who that person is and how do you speak to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. You talked about retail and digital together. I mean, brick and mortar and digital together. So, how do you think should brick and mortar and digital to coexist or sustain together? Because again, strong feeling, right? I
Yeah,
need both. I'm
for
just not
sure.
happy with one.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe they coexist. I mean, honestly, what we see is that we see people that want to open the account digitally, but yet when they have a question, they don't use the chatbot. They want to come into the branch and talk to somebody face to face. But I also think it depends on what that question is, right? Is it a real personal question? Is it a rate sensitive? Is it a financial question? I think if it's somebody that's looking for a really quick, easy, like, where's my ATM? they'll use a chat bot. If it's somebody that's looking at what's the best rate, they want to talk to someone face to face and kind of finagle back and forth those rates, which again is what gives you the flexibility of a credit union, right? We have multiple products that might be best suited for you instead of a big bank that's black and white. Like, here's what you get. You fall into this persona. That's the end of the story. And that's what's so awesome.
Yeah, that's fair enough, Lisamarie. That's absolutely fair. Uh, Moving on to the next phase, right? Talking about your journey, right? Now, obviously, you've been through a long journey, interesting journey, moving from large banks to credit unions. Now, very similar to me, right? I mean, I came from the large Fortune 500s to the credit union ecosystem, and I loved it. I'm in love right now. My next question would be across your journey, right? So, are there any few lessons that you've learned across your journey you want to share with my audience? Because every episode is a unique journey that I try to cover. I do want to talk about your lessons learned across the way and how can it help people.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many lessons, right? We'd have to do another podcast just for all my lessons. I'm not perfect. We all stub our toes. We all make mistakes. But I think the biggest piece about it is learning from those mistakes, sharing that information and bringing it forward. I think for me, it's about listening and understanding your community, understanding what the needs are. One of the things that we have done and have had a great success on is the staffing challenges, right? People want to work hybrid. Brick and mortar is not hybrid. It's Monday through Friday. It's Saturday, right? It's not that stay at home or things like that, which works for different people. For us, though, it's really about being a good communicator, listening to what people want, listening to what their needs are. And also, I think putting yourself out there. One of the things I would say is you're never going to learn if you don't put yourself out there. And I challenge every person out there is to, if there's a group open, for example, digital, I threw myself out in digital to partner with somebody to learn more about digital. With that, I've learned so much through the technology side. I think you and I talked about this before. Your billboard's your best billboard, right? So put yourself out there. It's okay if you stub your toes. Just own it and move forward and learn from it and share that with others. So for me, it's just about communication and leading by example. Everybody can have a title, but the title means nothing if you're not a good leader and you're not compassionate and you're not there helping the people grow.
Exactly. That is one of table stakes. I mean, what you talked about, that is like basic. Without that, you can't uh, do much about it. Exactly. So now, let me ask you this question. I haven't asked you. I mean, why credit unions? I mean, I know all of us have our reasons, and I think all of us have moved to credit unions because we were just brought in over here. No one of us planned that we want to be in a credit union per se. But what is your but what is your story?
For me, again, the credit union is all about the people, right? It's about my team, it's about the members. I love the successes. My biggest thing is I love to take a member that's so angry and so frustrated to reach out, call them, talk through it, learn from it, and flip that from a negative to a positive. That is a thrill because sometimes it just comes down to a miscommunication, a misunderstanding. Just a very simple thing. I have no problem reaching out. And I also have members that call me directly about things, which is fine. I'm not a title person that just sits up here in this throne and says, oh, I'm this, don't reach out. You'll see me sitting at a front desk. I may be helping a banker or a teller or just joking around and having fun. But I think for me, it's just about that community. And credit union is community, it's neighborhood, it's the movement of taking care of people one at a time. And for me, that's what I love.
Yeah, I mean, the community movement is really strong. That brings me to the next question, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you have arrived at this stage of your career not easily, right? There have been a lot of
Oh, yeah,
bridges that you've walked across, a lot of things
for
that you've
sure.
done, moving from
Absolutely.
point A to B. It's a long journey, long story.
Yeah.
Again, Lisamarie, my reason for this podcast was not just sharing success stories. It was sharing even failures, sharing things that makes people who people are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about a few challenges that you faced and how do you usually solve for challenges?
Yeah. I would say for me, a couple challenges just recently this year, as we talked about, was staffing, challenges of staffing. But what I've done is every interview, I try to be present, whether it's a teller, a lead teller, a banker, assistant manager, or manager, I be present. But with that, you have to talk about purpose, and I lead with benefits and talk about internal promotion instead of immediately going to job duties and pay. I think for me, another thing that I've learned is technology, AI. You know what? I thought everybody understood AI. We have staffing from the age of 18 to mid 60s. Not everybody understands AI, and I've stubbed my toe on that, but I've learned now how to start that conversation and how to educate people. And you and I talked about this earlier. Everybody learns differently, right? Whether it is through a computer or an email, podcasting, hands on, hands off. I think those are the things that have really educated and taught me to really get to know the person and understand what their best learning curve is to help them grow to the next step. That would be my biggest challenges. I think it's just the technology and staffing, right? And just making sure everybody understands it. And learning what are the right things. So
I understand. So you touched upon something that's very valuable. Is this is interesting. Now, Karen, ask you a broader overarching question right now. Since you are someone who sees both retail very closely, work with the digital team, work with Marty in marketing, doing the entire demand gen, sales, BD, operations, you run the entire network in Minnesota. So definitely macro and microeconomic parameters or components do affect your business, do affect your P&L, right? With the current changes or with the current economy, how do you think 2025 looks like for you and as a whole for Trustone?
yeah, first of all, it's hard to believe that we're halfway through 2025 as today on June 1st, right? Isn't that crazy? Who would have thought,
I'm
right?
sure.
I mean, it's
I'm
just
sure.
crazy. There's so many moving parts with macro and micro levels. There's the uncertainty is inevitable, right? But with that said, what I believe the focus should remain on is best of class and service. If we continue to enhance our member experience and deliver value, education, and respect to our members, I think that's what's going to keep us growing. That's going to grow our memberships to our loans, to our checking, to our income, everything, assets. So for me, I think it's continuing that movement, the credit union movement, delivering the best experiences. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to set us apart. Everybody can go to a bank and credit union and get a loan. Everybody can go to a bank and credit union and get a checking account, a membership, whatever it
Exactly.
is.
Exactly.
But not everybody can have best of class service. And when our members come in and we know them by name and we're able to ask about their families and their kids, or we're able to help them from something that might have been an embarrassing scenario that they clicked on in their computer, whatever that is, I think that's what's going to set us apart, and that's going to help us grow within Trustone.
That's great, Lisamarie. This was again close 20 minutes of solid gold nuggets that we got from
Yes.
you.
Yes.
This was really great. Again, thank you, Lisamarie, for this time that you spent with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great year. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.